everybody, how you doing? My name is Dallin Washington and I'm here for another reaction. So let's get into it. I'm going to do one on Miss Billie Holiday, aka Lady Day or Lady in Satin. And I want to do this because I absolutely love this woman. Now, short, story. I was in college. And at times during studies, we all, when you're studying, you can get bored. So you need something to kind of, put a lightning rod in your head just to wake you up. So I listened to a lot of music. And I wasn't too big on jazz before college. I always heard of jazz in passing, but never got into it. So one day I was just in the computer lab, and I remember reading something on Ella Fitzgerald. And sure enough, Ella sparked my interest. And because of that, I did research. And I also, because of Ella, I got into her contemporaries, which were Sarah Vaughan was the second one. And loved Sarah Vaughan. Loved her voice. Still do. And because of Sarah Vaughan, I got into Carmen McRae, another contemporary. Songwriter, singer, great. She wrote Around Midnight, which is one of my favorite songs that Ella does, and she had written Around Midnight. If you have never heard that song Around Midnight, get into it. It's really a good song, really good song. But Ella does her wonders, and Carmen McRae does great with that too, as well as Sarah Vaughan and some other singers. I think Peggy Lee has did that too. But because of Carmen McRae, I got introduced to Billie Holiday. Now, mind you, I've always heard Billie's voice, including before I heard Ella's voice, but could never get into it because it didn't sound like what I've always heard on my radio. I grew up around Whitney, I grew up around Aretha, I grew up around Shaka, Natalie Cole, male singers, Luther Vandross, all of those, Smokey Robinson. I grew up in that time where we listened to that type of music, Blackstreet, all that R&B and MTV stuff. We listened to all that. But when I heard Billie, it just really didn't click. So I got into Billie later on in life. And when I got into Billie Holiday, it was an experience. Really an experience. I would say this. I got into Billie Holiday before I got into Judy Garland. It kind of, because of my my research with Billie, and because I love Billie so much, it got me attuned to listening to Judy Garland because I could feel Judy because I felt Billie. And that is so interesting how both singers came up around the same time period, and both had the same troubles, traumatic issues in childhood, in careers, of substance abuse. That's another story for whatever. But because of my interest and love for Billie, I could really take hold of Judy. So, going back to what I was saying, I love Billie Holiday. Billie Holiday, oh my goodness. Billie Holiday, I would say, and you can, really combat me in the comments with this one, but I think she was the architect of the American voice, the American singing voice. And let me get in on this history. When she came out, you had singers that sounded somewhat like Billie. But they were considered belters. You had people like Fanny Brice, you had people like Sophie Tucker, you had Ethel Waters, you had Ethel Merman, you also had blues singers like Bessie Smith, you had also some stylists, male stylists like Bing Crosby and all of these people in the 30s, in the late 20s and early 30s. Because at that time period, there were not a lot of recordings of those great singers. Whatever that was recorded, those were the singers that were selling. So you had those singers, but because everybody had a unique sound, when Billie came through the cracks, her sound was very different because Billie didn't have a big sound. When I mean a big sound, I mean she wasn't a belting show singers like Ethel Merman. She wasn't loud like Bessie Smith. She was, I would say, Ethel Waters and Billie had the softer approach to music, the softer sultry approach, the playful side approach, the sexy side approach. Then you had, because of these approaches, you had a second wave of singers like Ella Fitzgerald. You had Helen Forrest. You had singers who looked up to people like these. You had Peggy Lee. You had Sarah Vaughan. You had all these other singers, these singers that came after Billie, who looked up to Billie, who recognized her gift and honed in their own gifts, but also were inspired by what she brought to music, to the American sound, to jazz. Jazz was the American art form because there were no other art forms besides blues, and you had some folk, you had a little bit of country and a little bit in the gospel wave coming through too as well. But jazz was the mainstream art form, the swing and jazz and bebop. They were just the art form for the American mainstream. So because of that, because of this Billie Holiday unique sound, it garnered her so much acclaim, so much wave across the radios of America, across the art form of music. She brought in the sensuality of voice, and she brought in a new way, a new style that kind of ushered in what we now know for what my generation has been listening to is neo soul. And I do think Billie brought in that neo soul sound within her styling of jazz music. It has always been there, but neo soul is, I believe, is the replica of what Billie brought, and if that makes sense. But Billie Holiday, my goodness, she was an individual, an artist of her time. She was an artist of her time. She spoke on matters that really honed in on her community, on her as a woman. She wrote music. She was a Renaissance woman, a woman of her time. And because of it, she had some backlash, even from as high as the government. If you saw the movie, I think it's the U.S. versus Billie Holiday, it will give you a little bit more insight to what she had to deal with as an African-American woman, dealing with the FBI always cornering her in dealings with, the NAACP or the communist movement, as they thought she was a communist. But because of her song of Strange Fruit. Strange Fruit was very important. It was a very radical song of its time period. It brought out the message of lynchings within the United States, which was I believe it was an underworld type of situation that America didn't want the world to know. But the world found out through Billie Holiday. And because of that, she was enemy number one in the FBI. It was in the FBI situation of entertainers. I don't think she was enemy number one, but she was right there in their radar because she gave the world what they didn't want the world to know about the U.S. But because of her courageous, character, she was really a woman of the century, one of the greatest entertainers of the 20th century. And to be honest with you, she would never be topped. And I want to say she would never be topped. Yeah, she had, record sales, awards, and everything. But because of her influence on the genre of jazz, the influence on the American songbook, the influence of American singers, her influence is still there, still relevant. When I listen to Erykah Badu, it's there. When I listen to Jill Scott, it's there. When I listen to Mary J. Blige, the pain, the gut, it's there in Mary J. Blige's voice. Even though it's R&B and hip hop, it's there. When I listen to, even Judy Garland was influenced by Billie Holiday, that she made reference to wanting the voice of Billie Holiday because it was a voice that she admired. Not only other singers like Ella, and you had people like oh my goodness, like Natalie Cole. They all loved this woman. Donna Ross, another one. Aretha Franklin too. But other than that, going back to this reaction, I want to do this reaction on these two performances of God Bless the Child, a song that she had written. Also Now or Never, with one of the greatest jazz bands of all time, the Count Basie, which they were called the greatest rhythm section of America.
Shall have them that's not shall lose. God bless the child that's got his own, that's got his own. Yes, the strong get small while the weak ones fade. Empty pockets don't ever make the grade. Mama may have, Papa may have, but God bless the child that's got his own, that's got his own. Money, you've got lots of friends crowding round the door, but when you're gone and spending ends, they don't come no more. Rich relations give crust of bread and such. You can help yourself, but don't take too much. Mama may have, Papa may have, but God bless the child that's got his own, that's got his
Wow. Wow. This, I'm going to stop this at the midway point to say this. When I listen to this song, it inspires me to go the distance. What I mean is, God bless the child is based on one's individuality and one's authenticity. We all come from situations where certain traditions, certain religions, certain values are upheld. But when you go against the grain, you are going to be ostracized, or you will in some way feel abandoned. But the will to succeed and the will to keep moving is so in you, you have no other choice but to just walk away and to strive on one's own. God bless the child is that for me. God bless the child reminds me, regardless of regardless of where I've come from and what values I was used to hearing, that at the end of the day, I am my own person. I can make my own choices. I can do whatever I want to do if with whatever strength that is in me to do it. Whatever I have in me that I can share or I can do with, it's just whatever strengthens me, I can do whatever I feel like I can do. And you know what? Yeah. When you have money, you do have friends. Let's just be honest. When in this culture that we live in, money will bring you a lot of friends. But being broke will definitely leave you alone. Basically, that's what she was saying in the song. You have lots of friends hanging around your door, but when it's gone and the spending ends, they don't hang around no more. Ain't that something? That is a true statement to this day. People, we all know how it feels to have friends, but true friends will always be with you. But those associates, boy, will they come? Will they come when the going gets good, and when they leave, and they will leave when the going gets bad? That sticks with me out of that whole entire. That has always stuck with me, but it sticks with me, and it's so relevant to this day. That you will have people in your life that will be with you when times are good, but will walk away when times are bad. But God bless the child that got his own. Woo! God bless the child that got his own. Let's keep going. Let's keep going before it gets too deep.
Hey there, baby, make up your mind, 'cause I've been waiting such a long, long time. to you. Now, baby, I'll never, 'cause I've wasted so much time. Now, baby, I'll never, and it ain't no fault of mine. It's gotta be yes or no. It's either you stay or go. You can't leave me on the shelf. You gotta commit yourself. It's either you will, baby, or won't fall in love with me. I'm gonna call you once more on the telephone. I'll give it till 12 and I'll be gone.
Sing,
Now,
honey.
baby, I'll never. I've been so sad and blue. Now, baby, I'll never. I've been so lonesome too. Now, baby, I'll never. If I mean anything to you.
Ooh, let me tell you something. This girl is something else. For those who think that shedding your clothes and doing whatever you need to do to sell a performance is sexy, but look at this. This woman, to me, this is sexy. This is class personified, sophisticated sexiness. Homegirl just standing there and giving me all types of sex without even shedding clothes. She is giving me just life. And she's inspiring me even more. And then on top of that, she is singing in the cut. What I mean, she is singing in the cut. She is really grooving. And she's not singing on rhythm. You know, she's not singing in the rhythm section of the song. She's singing behind the rhythm. And she is just brilliant in this. And most of Billie Holiday's performances, I noticed, especially in live performances, she's never singing in rhythm. She has never sung songs the same way she had recorded them. She's different in most elements of and in most multifaceted performances that she has did in her lifetime. But boy, she is something else. She is really a sex kitten, and she is giving me all types of life with these facial expressions, the hair pushed back, showing this beautiful face, and that satin gown. It might have been either blue, red, or whatever, because it's a black and white. It could have been blue or it could have been red. But boy, it's giving me just sex kitten. It's giving me life. And I just want to stop right there and say that, because really, a lot of these singers these days, sensuality is not taught. It's not taught. Sensuality is sex. Let's just say sex appeal and sensuality is within you. It's within you. It's nothing that you have to shake, to twerk, to get out of you. It's in you. And I'm not going to name no names, but that is the truth. I mean, I love Janet Jackson. That is sexual. Okay, and I'll give Janet had did some things, but baby, she is sexy with her clothes on. But boy, this Billie is giving me all types of sex in this performance. Now, I'm going back to the performance.
Now, baby, I'll never, 'cause I've wasted so much time. Now, baby, I'll never, and it ain't no fault of mine. It's gotta be yes or no. It's either you stay or go. You can't leave me on the shelf. You gotta commit yourself. It's either you will, baby, or won't fall in love with me.
Wow. That is the reason why I love Billie Holiday. And to be honest with you, if you're not too big on her stuff, I will say this: really take your time out to really listen to her stuff. And especially, I did buy the album of Lady in Satin, which was one of her last albums before she died. And to be honest with you, though vocally she's not at her best, still inspiring. Somebody once said Billie was better with a broken voice than she was with a better voice, which I could see what he was trying to get at, because early Billie Holiday recordings, when she was at her youth, it was not as soulful, but it had a quality to it that people liked, because in that time period, like I said, recordings was new. It was different. You know, they recorded differently in those days too. They called them jam sessions. But later on in life, when she got with Verve Records, which was a record company that Ella Fitzgerald was queen at, my goodness, Ella Fitzgerald was the queen of Verve Records. But Billie so happened to have been signed on to that same record company towards the end of her life. And if you listen to those clear recordings with her with an orchestration, I will give you this. I'm a Fool to Want You, which is a great song. Real is dark, very dark, but wow, it has a quality to it that is irresistible, and I love it. But that is, to be honest with you, yeah, I feel like he was in his own way right, even though I don't care too much for when her voice went sour, but she did have a quality that made you sit back and really like say, wow, what was that? Just a great interpreter of music, one of the greatest, and one of the greatest jazz singers as well as singer of the 20th century. I mean, she had a lot of women that looked up to her. So I really, like I say, if you really want to get into Billie Holiday, take your time, really I would say just listen to Lady in Satin. It really will give you the chills. But other than that, though, I hope you enjoyed this reaction. If you really want to hear more from me, I do a show called The Truth Behind the Truth. All you have to do is type in TBTT, which is our acronym. And we come on the West Coast, Pacific time, 6 o'clock, Central time, 8 o'clock, West Coast time, 9 o'clock. And let's get in on the conversation. Share and subscribe. And also share and subscribe to these reactions. I love doing these reactions. So let's have a conversation, you know. Let's have a real good conversation. So I hope you feel blessed. I hope you stay safe. And I will see you soon. Bye.